Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dodgers Port, where today you can see we've got one of the big boys in the game. It's a battleship. It's a South Carolina and it's a Tier 3 American battleship. What we're going to do today in the battle is have a look at when to charge and when to run away in a battleship, and also, and this is one that gets a lot of people, when to switch between shell types, when to use armor piercing and when to use high explosive shells, and just a few tactics around how to deal with battleship on battleship action near the end of the battle. That said, I'm going to cut the waffle really early today. It's a weekend, you've all got better things to do than listen to me. Hopefully one of the better things to do is to watch the rest of this video. So with that in mind, let's jump in and I'll see you there. Here we are in our South Carolina, the wonderful Tier 3 battleship. Let's be honest, there are no wonderful Tier 3 battleships, generally referred to as struggle buckets. They are very slow, very low rate of fire, very low range, not a ton of health compared to what you get later on. So how are you going to play something that's surrounded by much more agile ships, bigger rates of fire, torpedoes that are really difficult to dodge? Well, you kind of have to pick your location, and by that I mean the range that you're going to keep from other ships. Too far away and you're probably going to miss a lot of shots, and when you've got a ship like this that's got a very low rate of fire, you can't really afford to be waiting 26-30 seconds between shots if you're not making any impact with them. Equally, you get too close, you're definitely going to be eating torpedoes and you're definitely going to be set on fire. So you need to find that happy balance, and you'll see during this battle there are times when it's a good idea to go towards people, and there are definitely times when it's time to run away. I say run, what I mean is limp away, because the top speed on this is pretty woeful. I mean, look at this, 17.5 kilometers, 17.5 knots at the minute. We might just about get up to 20 knots on a good day with a following wind. So the battle starts. The idea here is to stay reasonably close to our cap circle. The reason for that is if I get too far away from it and they start capping, there's no way I'm getting back to help, because this thing's just too slow. Now, enemy cruiser. Let's see if we can just give him a little bit of a taster with some armor piercing. No, we can't. As I said, the problem with firing at that kind of range is it's very, very difficult to hit anything. The dispersion on the shells as well is really high, so even if you do judge it correctly, and I didn't, then there's a good chance that you might only land 1 or 2 shells, or maybe none at all. So at this stage I'm having a good look around the battle and trying to see where I think it's going to develop, where I think a battleship is likely to be most useful. Now, if I put armor piercing in there, I can really do some serious damage to the enemy cruisers. I can certainly make a big impact on the enemy battleships. I can do very little indeed against the enemy destroyers unless I have no choice. So, got my guns betwixt and between, which is never a good thing on a battleship. I've got 2 pointing one way, 2 pointing the other. But there's an enemy battleship. Now he's slow, he's an easy target. Let's make him aware that I'm here, because hopefully he'll then charge towards us. And if he charges too quickly, oh, and he's turning a little. There you go, so we managed to get half of our guns off at him. Oh, overpenning at this range. Oh my god. Alright, let's give him a second shot then, and see if we can not overpen this time. And we've got his attention, and that's what I wanted. I'd much rather he was firing at me than firing at somebody else. That said, I managed to do 1 ricochet, 2 non-pens and 1 overpen. Go figure, RNG hates me. So I've done a whole 1600 damage so far. I decide now I've got the battleship's attention behind me, and he's clearly going to run towards me, and he's going to be firing at me at a very disadvantageous angle. That's effectively taking him out of the battle for a bit if he's going to fall for that, and that'll give me a chance to fire at some other people instead. And looky, there's a cruiser that's run aground, and there's another battleship coming in, but that cruiser looks much more juicy. And we've switched to high explosive, and we set him on fire, which of course he puts out straight away. Now, why did I switch to high explosive? Because I figured I might have to fire some shells at these battleships at extreme range, and best chance of doing any real damage is just to set their superstructure on fire at extreme range. Unlikely we're going to get any really big hits with armor piercing yet. Ouch! Somebody just shot me from behind. How very rude. And look at that, that's more like it. And that's what battleships are good at. Dealing very infrequent damage, but quite a lot of it. 5,300 damage. And he's burning. And burning severely. He could even burn to death. So putting the high explosive shells in, definitely a good idea. Look at those fires. Now we've got our destroyers decided to try and torpedo him, and they didn't need to worry about it. The fires got him. And there's another fire being set. When should you switch from high explosives to armor piercing? Well, when you're planning on doing citadels really with a battleship. And at this kind of range against these targets, very unlikely. Now I've got a problem here. I've got two battleships both bearing down on me, and they're in the cap zone. So I need to just make them clear to them that they're not having the cap zone. Now this battleship's been on fire once and put it out, so he can't put it out a second time. And we got him burning. Battleship's got to burn. Battle looking like it's kind of in our favour with two ships up at the minute. I've really got to stay by our own cap zone in the South Carolina now, and I'm really glad I did, because there's only me and one other cruiser who stayed back. Everybody else is way south, and they brought all of their heavy guns up here. So our job really is to just kind of hold this cap, stop them capping, until our team down south can win the battle in their cap zone and probably cap. At this stage, that's what I'm thinking, that we're going to win this battle, if we win it, by capping. Now I'm going to have to turn in a second, but before I do, I want to get one more salvo at this cruiser with my guns pointing to the port side. And I've just taken another salvo up the rear end. Okay, let's see what we can do there. Yeah, that's going to hurt. And he's burning as well. Unfortunately, he's managed to put the fire out. How very frustrating. So I'm going to have to turn now, and by turning it means I'm going to effectively lose my guns on the after the ship for a while, because they're going to have to spin all the way around. However, before we do the turn, we may as well get the front guns, the forward guns, to have one last shot. Oh my days, really? Someone there trying to get himself killed by sailing directly in front. And that's unbelievable that that shot missed. Now you can see here, we've got three cruisers here, and they're all on fumes for health. If we can kill these three cruisers, then we're going to win this battle quite easily. Now my secondaries have managed to take care of one cruiser there. See if we can knock this guy down. Oh, I'm firing really low here. I'm trying to citadel him because his angle was perfect. I got him there. But now I have a decision to make, because there are two battleships, one of which is heading right at me. Now I don't want to go head to head with him. I've got an ally battleship coming in really quickly, so I'd rather take this cruiser out. Let's get rid of one set of guns that are firing at us. Oh, frustrating. He was sunk just before I got my shot off. So now I've got two battleships both firing at me. My health's fine. I've got a couple of heals. So how to deal with two battleships? It's 2 on 2, but look, here comes the cruiser to help. So we've actually got these two battleships outnumbered now, 3 to 2. Let's worry not about what's happening down south. They've got one battleship down there currently being mauled to death by 3 of our ships. So all we need to do up here is make sure that these two battleships don't sink our two battleships. Now switch back, obviously, to armor piercing. And that's going to leave a mark. Now round about now, the battleship in between us is wondering what's happening, because he's done the fatal mistake of getting himself between two enemy battleships, which means we can bring fire on him from both sides and he can't fire at both of us. That guy over on the island is really annoying me. He's the one that's been pinging me throughout this battle. But this target is way more juicy. And there's another big chunk. And you can see all three of us are now firing on this one battleship, and that's definitely the way to go. When you've got one battleship in your sights, take him down. We'll worry about the other battleship once he's dead. And it looks like he's about to do something really silly and run aground. Oh dear. What kind of a fool would run aground on an island? So at this stage and at this distance, the only shells I will be firing from now on are going to be armour piercing. Battle looks pretty much won now. It's just a matter of getting rid of these two battleships and making sure we don't do anything stupid. Now what you may have noticed there is the big difference between the way I played my battleship and the way they played theirs is I constantly backed off and made sure that there was only ever one battleship or one ship able to get their guns on me at a time. Their battleships kind of rushed in, and once you're in a kill zone like that between lots of other ships, it really is a world of pain. The only reason I'm now this close to the enemy battleships is I just really need to use my armour piercing to broadside him and put him out of his misery. And there's the Citadel, and good night. Now, here's a really interesting tactic when you're going one-on-one, and I'm not one-on-one, there are other ships firing at him, but imagine I'm one-on-one with the enemy battleship. So both of our guns are facing each other. Now, by quickly turning and going astern of him, my guns are still pointing at him. Now, a ship turns faster than its turrets when it's a battleship, so what I'm doing now is I'm making sure that my guns are pointing at him, but he can't turn his guns round. Now, what he's going to try and do is turn to starboard. You can see him slowly turning because he wants to get his guns back on me. But he can't, because I'm just making sure the angle of my ship stays behind him. While ever I'm directly behind him, he cannot fire his guns at me. I use this tactic a lot when I'm doing battleship versus battleship, because even if I now catch him up and overtake him, which I'm trying to do, that'll mean my guns will still be firing at him, but what his guns were never able to do is get around and turn and put some fire back on me again. It's at that point the battle ended, because as predicted, we capped the enemy zone. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the outro, just like I didn't on the intro. It's the weekend, go and do something exciting. Maybe play a bit of World of Warships, maybe actually leave the house for a change. My plan for next week is to upload maybe 2 or 3 videos before I'm on holiday for a week, and I'll try and include a couple of ships that are maybe a tier or 2 higher for people who are in the intermediate range. If that's what you're wanting to look at, please pop back and have a look at the videos then. Hope to see you next week, and until then, bye bye.